Welcome to the Coronavirus Weekly Brief. We're your hosts. I'm David Sterman.
And I'm Emily Schneider. Here are the headlines you need to know.
The U.S. Food and Drug Administration approved emergency use authorization for Johnson & Johnson's single-dose COVID-19 vaccine on Saturday. As part of the rationale for approval, the FDA noted in its press release the randomized placebo-controlled clinical study conducted in South Africa, Mexico, the United States, and several South American countries, which included 19,630 who received the vaccine and 19,691 people who received a placebo. The study found that the vaccine was about 67% effective in preventing moderate to severe COVID-19 2 weeks after vaccination, 66% effective in preventing moderate to severe COVID-19 4 weeks after vaccination, and 77% effective in preventing severe COVID-19 2 weeks after vaccination, while 85% effective in preventing it 28 days after vaccination.
According to reports by STAT, the vaccine was slightly less effective against a virus variant first spotted in South Africa, known as B.1.351. Another variant, known as P.2, didn't appear to erode the vaccine's protection. The Johnson & Johnson vaccine's 72% efficacy rate in the U.S. clinical trial site, a number that scientists have celebrated, still falls short of the roughly 95% rate found in studies testing the Moderna and Pfizer vaccines. However, Director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases Anthony Fauci cautioned against getting caught up in what he called the number game, saying, quote, "It's a really good vaccine, and what we need is as many good vaccines as possible."
Chile has administered more than 3.1 million vaccine doses in just 3 weeks, emerging as a global leader in COVID-19 vaccinations, behind only the US, UK, UAE, and Israel. Chile has secured vaccines from a range of suppliers and is aiming to inoculate 80% of its population by June. It has already vaccinated 16% of its 19 million citizens, a rate that far outstrips the regional average. Brazil has vaccinated 3.67% of its population. Argentina has vaccinated 1.84%. But no other South American country has administered shots to over 1% of its population. Chile purchased more than 35 million vaccine doses, including 7.8 million through COVAX, the WHO's mechanism for ensuring equitable distribution of vaccines. Quote, "We have followed a pragmatic strategy," said Rodrigo Yanez, the undersecretary in Chile's trade ministry, who has been tasked with securing the vaccine supply. Quote, "We considered the technical and scientific merit of each vaccine, rather than political factors, and have reached agreements with a number of laboratories in case supply should slow down."
On Sunday, Israel approved plans to vaccinate Palestinians with Israeli work permits after facing criticism from global health authorities and human rights groups for not extending its campaign to Palestinians in the occupied West Bank and Gaza. Israel agreed earlier this month to give Palestinian health officials 5,000 doses of its Moderna COVID-19 vaccine supply, though it has only given around 2,000 doses so far. Now, Israel's defense ministry said it would vaccinate the roughly 130,000 Palestinians who work in Israel or its West Bank settlements. Omar Shakir, Israel and Palestinian director at Human Rights Watch, said that Israel was bound by international law to vaccinate Palestinians living under its effective control. Quote, "Vaccinating only those Palestinians who come in contact with Israelis reinforces that, to Israeli authorities, Palestinian life only matters to the extent it affects Jewish life," Shakir said.
On Saturday, the House of Representatives passed President Biden's proposed $1.9 trillion COVID relief and stimulus package, sending it to the Senate. The Wall Street Journal writes that the bill, quote, "would fund vaccine distribution, enhance and extend federal unemployment benefits, and send direct checks of $1,400 to many Americans, and $350 billion to state and local governments. It would also raise the federal minimum wage to $15 an hour," unquote. As we have covered in prior briefs, the $15 minimum wage proposal has been a lightning rod in the Senate, unlikely to receive Republican support, let alone clear the 60-vote threshold to invoke cloture on a filibuster, and the Senate parliamentarian advised that the proposal could not be passed via reconciliation, a process that would allow the Senate to pass the bill with only a majority without having to break a filibuster. On Saturday, President Biden urged the Senate to act quickly to pass the bill. Biden stated, quote, "We have no time to waste. If we act now decisively, quickly, and boldly, We can finally get ahead of this virus, we can finally get our economy moving, and the people of this country have suffered far too much for far too long. We need to relieve that suffering, unquote. To see our daily brief, go to the address in our show notes and follow us on Twitter at NewAmericaISP.
The Coronavirus Weekly Brief was produced by Shannon Lynch and Jason Stewart and was edited by Shannon Lynch. This podcast is brought to you by New America and Arizona State University.